Orqa FPV goggles are now going out to the Kickstarters, and the pre-releases will be going out shortly after that. I wanted to talk to Orqa one more time to figure out how the launch is going, what they're working on next, and how the FPV Connect works with the app. So let's talk to Sergen from Orqa FPV. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I believe we talked way back in March, and you guys were just getting started. I'm sure there's a lot to learn at that point, and it seems like you've grown a lot also. I believe you said you started with like 6 or 8 employees, and now you seem like you're in the 15 or 16 employees.
Now we're over 20.
Over 20 now. That's really cool.
And we're getting new people on board because the manufacturing, we want to do everything in-house. I mean, as much as possible in-house. And this requires, extra pairs of eyes and hands. So we're growing.
So you're ramping up, starting to get some of those units out on the Kickstarters first. Then I noticed that Get FPV has pre-orders going, and you also have incentives going off there. If you pre-order now, you'll get the patch and the FPV Connect with the pre-orders, and I think that's going on through December or something like that.
Yep.
Very cool. Now, where does that unit actually fit into the goggles?
So you know that we have a secondary bay, yeah? So the secondary bay was done exactly for that reason, right? So a secondary bay was like this bay where you would put some sort of extension. We got some essential, we got the flex cable there with some essential connectivity buses. And basically, we put it there assuming that we'll do something eventually. And before we even launched, this cool idea came that we could do, why don't we do a Wi-Fi module, get the connectivity up to a certain level. And it also required us to add some other connectivity capabilities to that secondary bay, which we did. And this is how FPV Connect started.
So that's very cool. When I first heard about your FPV Connect, you were teasing online on your Instagram and Facebook, and then I heard you talking to Josh Bardwell about it. What is FPV Connect? Are you guys making that yourself? Because before Orqa goggles, I haven't heard anything about it.
Yep. So basically, it's done from the ground up. It is a module with Wi-Fi connectivity, which basically serves as a bridge between your goggles and the rest of the world. And it's going to be accompanied by an Orqa mobile app that you'll be able to install on your smartphone. And this app will allow you to access media on your SD card. It will allow you to stream your session in real time to your smart device, so to your smartphone. And once the stream is being displayed on a smartphone, it's a matter of really integrating the app with any of the online services and basically being able to live stream your session to the world. And I think it's going to open up a whole new kind of way of sharing the FPV experience.
I also think it opens up the doors for more live feed integration with, the rise of multi-GP and the other leagues like Drone Racing League to be able to live stream that, because they're all recording the footage and have to go back and edit. But if you're watching NERC or Jet or Gab or someone, they have the potential to just throw up the feed right away and you can watch it live as opposed to waiting for the edit to come out.
Oh man, that's another whole, area that we're talking about. So imagine like Twitch for FPV. I think it would even add more to the hobby. I mean, this is what this is what it's about, for us.
It is what it's about, is sharing with the community. Now that's how you're also going to be able to update the Orqa goggles, right? Is through the FPV Connect Wi-Fi app.
Oh yeah, I mean that was the original kind of idea was that allowing people to access their media on the SD card rather than having to download it to your computer, SD card and whatever. And since we are currently distributing updates and installing updates via SD card, and so the logical extension of that idea was, why don't we use that as to make updating your goggles more seamless?
Yeah, DJI's been doing that with theirs DJI system for a couple of years now, and it seems like that's kind of the trend, is updating your hardware via apps and smart devices.
Yeah, I mean it's and on via an app you can have a more natural user interface. People are more acquainted with the UI on the app, and
easier. Is there a way to update the goggles if you don't have the Wi-Fi mod? Because you are coming in at more of a premium price, and then the Wi-Fi is an addition to that. So can we update if we don't have the FPV Connect?
Of course. This is you would do it in the standard way. You'll go through that procedure. There's with each release we are distributing a simple instruction file telling you what's in that update, what bug fixes we did, and it gives you nice step-by-step instructions how to do it. It's very easy, but it's still like, save it on the SD card, plug in, plug out. With the Connect and with the mobile app, it's going to become much easier. And I think that should be we're in less than a month, we're going to be in 2020. So, I guess it's about time that we start doing things 2020 way. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Now, you mentioned some of the delays going on, like getting the power button. There was just some miscommunication and they didn't arrive on time. You're not buying these things from Amazon, and you want them to, work seamlessly with your goggles. I also heard you had some problems with DVR, and you kind of had to go back to the drawing board. I believe you were getting too much latency from the original design you had, and what was the process to try and fix that?
Well, it wasn't. This wasn't. So DVR is not about the latency. It was it was the sheer complexity of that of this whole endeavor. More frequently find ourselves in an area where you're just operating in an undocumented area. So you'll implement a chip. Let's say you implement a chip in your design, and typically you have for the 90% of functionalities, everything is nicely documented in the technical documentation. So you have your couple hundred pages and everything is there. But we found ourselves that we're pushing our hardware beyond that 90%, and it's at one point back in the development phase, we were at the stage where we were trying to make our hardware do what's not in the data sheets, and then we were getting in touch with the chip vendor and getting them to support you. And it was like this. So the DVR was one of the particularly complex things to kind of implement, and it still is. There's a lot of stuff on the DVR end that we are working on as we speak, and not just the user experience type of thing. The controls that we're going to give to the users, but it's also the performance of the DVR. The DVR at the moment is not performing. We're not. Let's say that we're not drawing the maximum that we can draw from the hardware that.
Yeah, I think almost all of us are unhappy with our current DVR in our goggles. It misses frames. You see a lot more just glitching out than what you actually see. So if somebody's doing a review or trying to share footage, it's hard to give them a good sense of what's going on when the screen keeps flickering.
Now, the DVR that we have operational right now, that's been released to the users, is way better than what's out there at the moment. A thing is that we can make it even better, and that's what we're striving to do right now. Not just, as I said, not just the user experience, but the overall performance of the hardware.
Yeah, and by doing that, you're making other companies like Fat Shark step up their game, because you want something better, and it's not just about the experience. It's like, no, this should be better. We as a community, as a hobby, need to work towards that. So.
Yeah, I mean, you look at our competition. They're innovating like they've never been innovating before, and that's simply because we're out there. We I think, we kind of upped the game and made everybody think. And it's the same thing as with DJI. When DJI went out with with this great HD system, when this kind of forced a lot of people that were threatened by the fact that digital age is coming. They forced a lot of people to think about how they could innovate. And under this pressure, I think we will see a lot more digital systems out there, which are not going to be DJI, and it would not be possible without DJI being out there. So overall competition is good because it's pushing all of us further. So I can say that we're far from some complacency because we're still very passionate about the product. We still want to, there's a lot of features that we want to see in the product. But let me tell you, competition pushes you to think quicker, to act quicker, and overall it's a good thing. Huh? Sorry? Oh, exactly. So overall, I think it's a good thing, and yeah.
You mentioned you mentioned a couple more delays with colors coming out. I think you said you may only have the blue and the white or the blue and the gray right now. As far as implementing different colors, what kind of challenges do you see there? Are there setup fees for the different colors when you change from black to blue, or what other problems do you have?
Oh no! I mean, it's more mundane. So simply because it was a stretch goal, it kind of, it was put in the queue later, and that's it. Simple. It's as simple as that. And plus, we didn't get much traction with those colors. So a fairly small percentage of people wanted alternative colors, and this kind of pushes back things further. So this mundane question of logistics.
You have a lot of other features, not just the buttons and bells and whistles. You say there are different options for powering up the goggle, like you can plug it in and it'll turn on immediately. You can do the long press, and there are other ways that you can do power. Do you have other fan speeds in your goggles or DVR options that you can do? So as soon as you turn on the goggles, it starts recording, anything like that?
To power. We had some ideas about alternative modes like mixed modes, which are really cool, which we may implement in the later releases. Yeah, I mean, there's that, and then there's different modes for operating the DVR. We're still listening to the community, how they like to use it, and we're going to implement more modes on the DVR. How the DVR is going to be, it's always on, or different other modes. And when it comes to fan speed, we have two fans in the goggles. So defogging fan it's pretty silent, and you really can't. We actually had to add the a sound kind of notification when you power on the fan, that you can hear the beep, so it's on. But the secondary fan, the fan that really cools down the goggles if the heat becomes too high, it's really automatic. So the hotter the goggles are, the faster it will blow out the hot air.
How does the playback and the whole menu system work on the Orcas? Is there a little trigger so you can go up, down, left, right, and then press to enter? And what kind of display do you have on the menu if you don't have that Wi-Fi FPV Connect?
You can, so basically you go through the menus. You select the file, you play file, you start playback, and then using your joystick, there are some additional controls that you can have on a playback. So now I think the thing that we were discussing earlier today is how we're going to implement those, kind of fast forward, backward, slow motion controls. So when you lose your quad, you can kind of play it back in slow motion, so you can actually see, where it went.
Will there be different profile settings so you can have daytime flying or golden hour flying, where it will adjust the contrast, brightness, stuff like that, and maybe have different profiles or anything?
Funnily enough, nobody asked for that. Yeah, I mean, if this is something that the users will find useful, I see no reason why we shouldn't introduce that in some of the future.
Cool. It seems like you're kind of just sitting back and be like, all right, what do you guys need? We can update with our firmware. So you're kind of just like testing the waters, seeing what else is out there, and then like, yeah, we'll just keep coming out with updates if you guys find the need for different elements.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. I mean, literally, less than half an hour ago, we had this meeting where we kind of sifted through the feedback that we got, and we were like, okay, what do we do? What do we do next? And then it was like, list of bugs, done, 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 check, 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 and we were like, okay, there's, what now? What next? So it's literally like that. We had to, as engineers, there's always this thing called like scope creep, where you just want to keep adding features and delaying release until you kind of make a perfect product. But we decided a fairly long time ago to kind of cut our desired feature list and just release the goggles, and then get the community to kind of get our users to tell us how they want to use the product, what they want to see in a product. And I think this is the beauty of FPV1 and generally future Orqa products, is that there's so much computing power in there, and they are designed in a way to be, as Ivan said, it future proof. So it's not like we sell you a bit of hardware and then you're stuck with it, and then when something new comes out, you're stuck with that. There's so much things in terms of features that we could do and we could add. Some of them we don't even know what somebody will come up with tomorrow.
I totally agree. I mean, goggles at their grassroots are a receiver and a display, and that's kind of it. And year after year, we're setting this trend where you just need to update your electronics every year, and people are really getting sick and tired of that trend. So I think by just maxing out the best on-screen visuals you can have, and then having the future-proof by implementing the softwares afterwards, is a really good way to have your goggles have that longevity and lasting appeal to people 2-3 years down the road.
Oh yeah, I mean this is somebody asked me a while ago, and then this is a question that we keep here being repeated is will you support digital? Will you support HD? And I'm like, these goggles were designed with digital in mind, because nobody in their right mind would put high definition displays if it's an overkill for PAL NTSC that we're flying today. So it would be a completely a crazy thing to do if you're intending to use them only on standard definition resolution. So yes, of course, it's almost it's almost as if FPV1 is native for digital, but for the time being, we have no other systems to fly it with but standard definition. And but the design, everything was done for HD. And FPV1 would be a gross overkill if there wasn't digital era on the horizon. Back when we started with the first draft, we knew that the future is digital. We didn't know what form it's going to be, but it was a no-brainer that it's going to be. It can't be standard definition, because we were living at the time. It was 2018, and we're still flying on 1950s basically technologies. I think there's a lot of advantage to the analog system, and I think analog is here to stay longer than many people expect. There are some inherent drawbacks in digital that we are still, as a engineering community, are trying to overcome.
Yeah, I agree. Digital is definitely on our horizon, but it is a ways out. There's just a lot of hype surrounding it, and especially with FPV, it's tough to jump on version 1s of things, because you're not sure what's going to happen with the market and where technology is going to go. Is Orqa working on any other projects? Maybe a cheaper model of your current FPV1 or your Orqa 1 goggles, or are you working on a module yourself, or are you guys just focusing on what you have and firmwares for the future?
So we have a couple of other projects in the pipeline and products in the pipeline. So I think fairly soon we're gonna be launching FPV2, which is basically a version of FPV1, slightly scaled back. All the cool features that you will love in FPV1 will be in the FPV2. We're going to use the smaller panels, still OLED, but smaller panels, and it will result in a smaller field of view. Some people will just, justify paying less for a smaller field of view. So we want to cater to that kind of part of the market, and that's coming up fairly soon. Then we're also working on kind of a junior entry level type of goggles. But that's further down the line, and there's also a couple of other cool projects. But at the moment, most of our R&D is focused on supporting the existing product. So the product that we've launched, it's about getting the FPV Connect out there, getting FPV Play out there. FPV Play is the accessory that will enable you to connect to your phone and to either play videos from your phone when you're on the go, or play video games on your phone, mostly Sims. So it will allow you to plug in your goggles to your phone and use your goggles as a monitor of your phone, but at the same time plug in your controller so you can play Sims while you're on the go. So you can play FPV Sims while you're on the go. So I think this will, personally, I think that the future of simming, especially FPV simming, is definitely mobile. Everything is mobile now. So and our smartphones pack enough computing power that they can run pretty decent 3D graphics. So yeah, I mean that's.
So I was looking around at some of the other comments from people and what they're kind of looking for right now from Orqa, and I noticed a lot of people are looking for more DVR footage and more real world pilots flying them, having them, taking pictures of them and stuff like that. Does Orqa have a team that we can start to follow, or a couple pilots that you put units in that we can start to look at these themselves? Or are you guys going to be making videos of long range, freestyle racing, something to show the clarity of the goggles and the DVR?
Well, as much as we do have people that on our team that are just doing marketing and community outreach and really keeping contact with our user base, growing user base, we are still. Let's say that the majority of our effort is still on engineering. We want to get the processes, manufacturing process down to the T, where the quality is top notch that we want, and where the volume will be able to grow, so we can ship as much units to meet demand. And demand is growing, with every day. So our focus at the moment is on that. There's certainly, there's obviously our friends and family that kind of have been supporting in a community of friends and family, like pilots, that have been supporting us. So I think as soon as we kind of, and there's also this, we've been delaying the Kickstarter shipping. So I think kind of being distracted away from our Kickstarter backers would not be fair towards them. So now we're like 100% either on engineering or communicating with our Kickstarter backers, because our user base right now are the people that backed us when there was no product.
Are you guys planning on coming to the States anytime in 2020 for any big events, or you're not sure yet?
I think we're gonna be at the CES in some form or another. Maybe not exhibiting as the last year, but maybe being present there in some capacity.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It was an honor talking with you, and I had a lot of fun diving in deep with the FPV Connect. Thank you.
No, thank you for inviting me again, and it's always a pleasure.
That's going to wrap up this interview. What do you think of the Orqa FPV goggles? Are you switching, or are you going to stick with your Fat Sharks? If you want to watch the full unedited interview, you can go over to my YouTube channel, Average Hobbyist, where I'll have the full 45-minute interview. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and as always, keep ripping packs.